Cody, do the Tigers have a pulse?
I think they have a pulse, but it's getting lighter by the day, right? I mean, this has gotten bad. I've never seen anything like it. I don't really know how to describe it. I don't have a lot else to say. It has been a very bad stretch of baseball. They're not getting any breaks. Their roster's turned into a mess. Now they're fighting for their lives.
Before we get into like the team and the issues and the problems and the questions, is this the worst off day that you can remember for this team? In the sense that they have to wake up today and not play a game, staring at the fact that they've been 1-9 in their last 10. Or is this the best off day possible? Regroup, everybody's ready to go, and it's a fresh day tomorrow with your ace on the hill.
That's kind of a good question, Eric. I asked Spencer Torkelson that after the game yesterday. Like, you have an off day. Are you going to think about baseball? Are you going to totally unplug somewhere in between? He said, I'm totally unplugging. He said, we're all just disconnecting, not thinking about baseball. I kind of hope that's what these guys do. I think they're spending their off day in Cleveland. So, Zach Meisel, my colleague, wrote some funny lines. Are they going to go up to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and play a little garage band? Are they going to go out to the zoo? They should do something like that, because the more you press, the more you worry about baseball, the more you worry and dive into the numbers and the scouting reports. Doesn't seem like that stuff has been working for them. So I hope they're having a nice time and maybe can come back freshened up tomorrow.
Isn't that what happened at the All-Star break, Cody? And then I think they had a really bad start to the second half of the season. So are they sure they want to do a reset where you just float away and have a nice boat day?
That's a fair question. They had 6 guys at the All-Star game because, remember, they were really good in the first half. So I don't know. Maybe those were the guys who needed to float away on a boat somewhere.
Okay, so take me to the trade deadline, because we were discussing this. Were the Tigers smashed enough for doing a quantity over quality trade deadline? As I saw you retweet yesterday, I'm forgetting the name, but we can show the tweet again at some point here. How many pitchers were brought in and how many pitchers are now not on the roster anymore? So, like, when you add up all of the trade deadline, what did they actually get and how much did they miss out on going after big boys?
Yeah, they've been crushed a lot for the trade deadline, both at the time and especially now. They got Kyle Finnegan, who had an IL stint but has been really good. He's only allowed 1 run. Rafael Montero, one of these project guys that was like, okay, really? He's been pretty good. They've helped him get better. They really needed to add swing and miss to their bullpen. Those 2 guys have actually done a decent job helping. I think if you were to ask the Tigers and be like, well, why didn't you get a closer? They'd be like, well, what, you want us to get Ryan Helsley? He's been awful. And I think that is the thinking that led to this approach. Let's get a bunch of guys, throw it at the wall, hope a couple of them stick. Kind of a risky approach in itself, though. Is that really a better approach than just going and getting a couple dudes who throw 100 and are really hard to hit? I think that's the big question here. But the worst thing they did was go get 2 starters, Charlie Morton and Chris Paddock. Both came relatively inexpensive, and Morton's no longer on the team. Chris Paddock's been demoted to the bullpen. He's hanging on by a thread. I was one of few banging the drum for, like, you need to reinforce this rotation. You're an injury away from being in a bad spot. Reese Olson got hurt. You got 2 guys. One of them was 41, came to you with an ERA around 6. The other, Chris Paddock, just hadn't really been that good for a couple years now. They have failed spectacularly, and the Tigers have tried to kind of do the cute thing where they cycle in and out a bunch of different pitchers, churn the roster, churn the bullpen every series. They did that last year and it worked. They're showing why that's not necessarily the most sustainable approach, because it hasn't worked this time around. Now you're entering the biggest series of the year with some relievers stuck in the option cycle and with a bullpen that just doesn't look very good beyond 1 or 2 guys.
Did this happen quick to the clubhouse? The vibe when you walk in there, did it happen quick where they're like, whatever, we got this. Holy crap, we don't got it. Or has it been like a slow build here through these last 10 games / 2 weeks?
I think it's been kind of quick. I mean, you can go back to June and the Tigers were playing closer to 500 ball than being the team they were in May. But they had such a big game in a big lead in the AL Central. It never really felt like it. They lost 12-13 at one point in July, and it wasn't great. But you look at the standings and be like, okay, well, this is baseball. They're going to snap out of it. And I think that was kind of the mentality, and they lost a couple games. I was with the team in Miami, and I was like, it feels oddly tense in here. And since then, maybe it's been slower since then, but the last 10 days, it's like every day feels a little worse, a little tighter, a little more quiet. And now you look up and you're fighting for their lives. So one of those things that happened gradually and then suddenly, kind of all at the same time.
Cody, how much of this, though, do you think was a lack, and I've said this, I thought they would turn around once they got it back in their division, is a lack of, I don't want to say focus because that's not the right thing, but lack of immediacy, and like we have to go now because they're like, oh, we have a 10-game lead. Oh, we still have a 7-game lead. We still have a 5-game lead. And they never were able to get that urgency and ready to go and the fire back. And now they have to try and find it. And a lot of times what you see happen is once you lose it, it's really hard to get it back for most teams. Can they do that?
Yeah, right. That's the big question. I don't know. I'm not trying to question the competitive character of those guys, and I don't envy them having to stand in front of the cameras every day and try to explain this when they're the ones on the field kind of getting their teeth kicked in right now. But they're being tested. That's the huge question. Can you turn this around? I do think there must have been some element of not coasting, but it's just different. When you're up 10, 12, 14 games, you're not playing with that pressure. You're also not playing with urgency. I think that must have set in subconsciously. And then you wonder, too, when your front office doesn't really go get you some real horses at the trade deadline, what message does that send to the team? When your front office and the coaching staff, they're bumping guys back to build in extra rest. They're kind of giving these retread pitchers tryouts because, hey, we have a 10-game division lead. We can do this stuff. What kind of message does that send to the players? And then all this builds up, and suddenly you're in a really, really bad spot on the verge of a historic collapse.
To me, I would kind of buck against that. It sends confidence. Hey, we don't need that many people.
Maybe.
We think what you guys are doing, even though they are all above everybody's norms for their career or their last 3 or 4 years, we believe in you. So I would kind of buck against that if a front office can back the current players on the field, that gives them a vote of confidence. But now you're in the case where a guy like Colt Keith goes down. He wasn't producing to this MVP level. Do they not have enough depth to fill that in? And along with that depth, you knew Javi Baez was going to come down from where he was. If the team was in another situation, would Javi Baez have played himself out of a position for the postseason in the way that he's played in the last 2.5 months?
The funny thing about that, Eric, is I've kind of been advocating for Javi Baez to play more because the guy who's been playing over him, Trey Sweeney, has a WRC plus of 1 in the second half. He's given you equal to worse production than Javi at the plate, and there's still some small things Javi Baez does in the field during the game that can be complete difference makers. Javi Baez has had a terrible second half. He's playing like the guy who we weren't sure if he was going to be brought back on the roster. But to your point, Eric, the alternative might be worse. And the alternative beyond Trey Sweeney and the organization, at least on the 40-man roster, is nothing. They have gotten in a weird spot where especially left-handed bats on the farm, they don't really have anything other than Kevin McGonigal, who's in Double-A, and it doesn't seem like they want to bring up. And I don't necessarily blame them for not wanting to throw McGonigal into that situation. But yeah, the depth is thinned out. You had a guy in Jace Young who's on this roster, replaced Keith. Big time prospect. A couple years ago, they didn't want to block him. Whatever, his development has really tapered off. It's funny how I think every team probably enters the season thinking they have depth, and then you get to August, September, you look up and your depth can evaporate pretty quickly based on injuries, based on underperformance. I think that's certainly happened where now you kind of have 2 shortstops who might not be on a lot of other rosters or on playoff rosters, but you have nowhere else to turn.
Kratz, let's talk about Omaha Steaks, and it's not just steaks. It's chicken wings. It's smash burgers. Big deli-style franks. There are a number of categories that you can hit all in one place. They've been doing it for a long time. They're the best in the biz. And if you got a good filet, life's good, man.
But you got to finish every meal with some delectable desserts, too. They have those, too, to go along with these delicious steaks.
Apple caramel tarts on the list, among many other menu items to check out. Be the hero that orders Omaha Steaks and is the most popular person in your household. So get fired up for fall grilling with Omaha Steaks. Visit omahasteaks.com for 50% off site-wide during their Red Hot Sale event. And for an extra $35 off, $35 off on top of that, use promo code FOUL at checkout. That's 50% off at omahasteaks.com and an extra $35 off with promo code FOUL at checkout. See site for details. If at the trade deadline you don't bring in a big boy, like if you're the Tigers and you don't go for a Duran, or we talked about even a bat because they had flexibility, a Geno Suarez or something like that. Are you telling your team, hey, we believe in you, we don't need anything? Or are you telling your team, we don't want to trade any prospects, we're on the 10-year plan?
Depends on how you look.
If you were in the clubhouse and you're the Tigers.
If you're in the clubhouse, you don't care about the prospects because you want to win now. So you don't care. So you're like, all right, well, they must think we're good. But at the same time, trust me, there are people that were complaining in that clubhouse that they didn't go out and make a bigger move.
Because even if you think you're really good, like you don't think you need any help in the playoffs, you don't think you need another big boy in the bullpen or another bat.
There were definitely guys complaining about it. I promise you there was guys saying, why didn't we do more?
Yeah. How did you feel at the time, Cody, that the clubhouse reacted to the trade deadline?
It was hard to get a sense for it. I think it's been a reminder that this is a pretty young team. This is a lot of guys who are still trying to establish their careers, trying to stay in line. If they had a problem with the organization, they weren't going to be saying that to me or anyone in the media. I did say at the time, like, maybe this is a vote of confidence in the guys in the group. But, man, yeah, like to your point, these guys want to win. They want to win the World Series. And I think they would know, they would feel better if they got another big horse in that room. One thing I want to point out, and it's not really a defensive of the Tigers, but there's so much focus on the trade deadline. And there are a lot of other teams that were like the Mets that were more aggressive and it didn't work out. But the Tigers are getting blasted for the trade deadline in part because of other bad decisions they've made along the way. Alex Cobb, Kenta Maeda, they spent $25 million on those two pitchers. They got nothing out of them. They signed John Brebbia. They DFA'd him before the All-Star break. You add in a couple injuries. They didn't close the door, or they didn't get the Alex Bregman deal done. They didn't go after a guy like Ha-Sung Kim, who was available again midseason. Some of the waiver claims, victories they've had on the margins over the past couple years, haven't really been any of those this year. So then when you don't have that depth, when you have needs in the rotation and elsewhere, and you don't do it at the trade deadline, everyone's pointing to the deadline saying, hey, why didn't you do more? In a way, it's a function of bigger and smaller decisions for the past 10, 12 months.
Yeah, part of it to me is I do think front offices look at their biggest wins as those pickups like Kyle Finnegan, you can make a case for, right? Not highly coveted. Then he comes over here. They're like, hey, throw away more splitters. Oh, look what we did. And you can kind of brag about it. It's not as easy to pull off when you're convincing your owner for more money and for trading more prospects. So, Cody, do you feel like this front office is digging too deep into, bargain hunting versus going for a big fish when clearly they had that ability, right? They went for Alex Bregman. They just weren't able to close it.
Yeah, that's been their approach. Bregman's really the only big guy they have pursued in a serious manner under this current regime. And look, a couple years ago, you're still building up. You're trying to see what young guys you have. That makes sense. You were coming off a playoff run, and you added Tommy Kahnle and Alex Cobb and John Brebbia. Gleyber Torres was a pretty nice signing, had a great first half, has tapered off in the second half, but it was a one-year deal. They like their one-year deals. They like their flexibility. Look, I know long-term deals are scary, right? There's some risk built in there, but I think the second half has shown that, hey, the matchups, the mixing and the matching, all that is great. There's a reason a lot of teams prefer to still just go get really good players, because sometimes that's the more reliable way to win games.
All right, Cody, we got to remember they control their own destiny. Take us to this week. They have Skubal going twice. It seems like I think they face Vibey, but it's not Cleveland's horses, their hottest pitchers right now. How does this week play out? To me, and we talked about earlier, it looks like it's the Tigers' advantage because they have Skubal going twice. Doesn't look great for the playoffs, but they got to get in first.
Yeah, I think in an ideal world, you don't have Skubal going twice because you win some games and you push him off that last day in Boston. But Tarik Skubal is this team's great equalizer, their great trump card. He's the best thing this organization has going. and you're going to give him the ball in a big game and hope he can give you a 7 shutty or something to that effect, help you get off this schneid, and then, hey, maybe you steal one more in Cleveland, maybe you're feeling a little better about yourself. We'll see. You don't want to lose that Skubal start. They've lost 3 of their past 5 Tarik Skubal starts. But if there's anything to make you feel better, I think you're right. I think it's Skubal.
All right. I messed up. I thought Gavin Williams just pitched, so the Guardians do have their 2 best going. They have Gavin Williams and Tanner Bybee. I thought he pitched on Sunday. I was mistaken. So, Tigers are cooked. My bad.
Well, they're getting a Guardians team that, I mean, is historically good in the last few weeks in run prevention. So, Cody, the rest of the way here, it's 3 against the Guardians. And then scoreboard watching gets really weird because at one point not long ago, it looked like the Red Sox were just going to kind of be firmly in one of those wild card spots. They're not. They have to finish strong. So we might get to that final series of the year where the Tigers need to win. And oh, wait, the Red Sox aren't cruising either. So that's their last 3 games of the year in Boston. So how daunting is this schedule here for them?
It's not ideal, but it's going to be some fun baseball. It's going to be some real atmospheres, some tense, tight atmospheres. The Tigers and Guardians play each other, fighting tooth and nail all the time. You're going to go into what could also be a big series in Boston with Alex Bregman playing third base for the other team. Yeah, I don't know if it's what you want. You'd probably rather face the White Sox or the Rockies right here, but this is what you got. It'll be fun. Last year I covered a team that overcame 0.2% playoff odds and had a historic run. This year I'm covering a team that is on the verge of blowing 99.9% playoff odds and having a historic collapse. So I'm so far out of the prediction business. If the Tigers went on, go 5-1 down the stretch and go to the World Series, it wouldn't shock me. But also watching this team for the past month, it wouldn't shock me if they end up being toast.